How to succeed when you don't have a winning start? I'm going to share 5 stories and 5 lessons from navigating a career as a woman in tech. Let's do a short exercise, right? I request you to close your eyes and take a guess as to how long. Take a guess as to the most ambitious woman that you know of. Maybe this is your mom, maybe it's your friend, maybe it's yourself, right? Now think about what motivates them. Think about their dreams. Now take a guess as to how many years it will take for that person to achieve gender parity, to have the same economic, political, health and other opportunities as the rest of the population. Can you take a guess? Open your eyes and take a guess. 135 years. According to the World Economic Forum Gender Parity Report, based on the current trajectory, it would take 135 years for gender parity to be achieved worldwide. That's not in my generation. It's probably not in my daughter's generation either. And if you thought that that was startling, think about the most disruptive sectors. Sectors such as data and AI, cloud computing, engineering, all of the jobs that make up the jobs of tomorrow. These, such as data and AI, are still massively underrepresented at around 32% worldwide. So you would think that this gets better as you move up the leadership. It doesn't. It narrows down further. What causes women to drop out of the workforce even before they reach management position? This is something that the McKinsey report calls the broken rung. Even as more women reach the executive position, there are too many getting stuck at entry-level positions, something which they call the broken rung. So what do you do when you start with such odds for success, right? How do you increase your luck? Irrespective of what your gender is, who you are, or where you come from. I was in probably 4th or 5th grade. We had moved into this new neighborhood, thanks to my mom. She worked in the state government and she was eligible for this really nice housing quarters, right? It came with this jackfruit trees laden backyard. It also happened to be near one of the poshest localities in the neighborhood. So Dad and I were driving down to this new place. We crossed this tree-lined avenue. It was filled with these palatial bungalows and green lawns, right? So I remember turning to my dad and asking him, who are these people, Appa? What do they do to build houses like this? Isn't it so unfair that they're born with such massive advantage, no? How do I even compete with them? Appa was this always unperturbed one. He laughed out aloud and he said, don't compete on what you're different at. Maybe you should compete on what you have in common. Time, health, and knowledge, he said. Maybe he made it in jest, but it's one of those comments that has stayed with me often. I call them levelers. We tend to overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. And technology today is the greatest leveler. So this is my story as a girl next door, as someone who's a work in progress, as a woman in tech and a leader in AI, and most of all, much like the majority of the middle class population in the country today, growing up with education as the only leveler. So today I want to share 5 stories and 5 lessons about how you can be intentional in terms of how you navigate your career and your life, especially if you're not born into privilege. And because I've lived in books more than anywhere else, Please look out for book recommendations across this. Much like the story of Kevin Hart, who was born in a single-parent household and grew up to be one of the top-rated comedians in the world. It's a story of just that, playing the rules to your advantage. So my first story is on identifying your why. I did my 11th and 12th in the same college as where my dad worked as the head of non-teaching staff. Everyone knew Mani Sir, and I was Mani Sir Damol, daughter in Malayalam. The physics professor, a very stern, no-nonsense lady, she stood ramrod straight, handing out papers, exam papers, and calling out her marks and comments as she did so. As I walked up to the dais to collect mine, an involuntary shiver ran down my spine. I had been pretty overconfident about my exams. 37 out of 100, she said, looking up, eyes narrowing. Mani Sir Damolalle, aren't you Mani Sir's daughter? She asked. I cringed in embarrassment, barely nodding. My dad, though, never asked me about the marks or the paper. I'd never failed in an exam before, and now I had come close to it. His silence hurt me more than his words could ever have. That day, holding the physics paper in my hand, I realized that what matters to me the most is the need to make my dad proud. My raison d'être, as the French call it, my reason for being. So, even before you identify what you want to do, identify your why. Or as Jordan Peterson says in his Rule 2, treat yourself as someone you are responsible for helping. Be the 1%. I was in 12th. I was one of the toppers and I wanted to study medicine. I went to this counseling session for the general merit medical seats to choose my seat, and I went there with my parents. They were keen on picking up a college within the city, fearing my safety. I had neither the guts nor the gumption to question it. I vividly remember standing in the line, waiting for my rank to be called out to pick my seat. The line slowly inched forward, and there was this counter on the top which showed the number of available medical seats. And just short of my turn, with probably 3 people ahead of me, the number slid down to 0. I just stood there, transfixed, not moving, eyes blurring, waiting for a miracle to happen. Miracles don't usually happen. A month after that, I started my engineering degree. I also realized that while my parents had my best interest in mind, there's only so much they could do to help me unless I was intentional about how I navigate my career. And before I turned to mentors, I turned to books, which explains why, even today, I look within the pages of one for all of life's answers. So when I was 22, unlike when I was 18, I stood my ground against getting married, and I moved to a city 1,500 kilometers away to do my MBA. And when I was older and hopefully smarter, I turned to mentors. They put me in rooms I did not belong, and they opened doors. They gave me a voice before I knew how to use mine. And that happens by giving before taking. Networking is best done when you don't have to. So be the 1%. Take ownership of what you want to do. Much like Chris Hadfield says, I wasn't destined to be an astronaut. I had to turn myself into one. My third story is about how you grow in your career. Should I take a career risk or should I play it safe? Why sometimes moving sideways is the best way to move up. How do I get promoted to my next role? I want to be doing something else in my career. I mentor a lot of young women who ask me this variations of this very common question. Our conversations usually tend to start with what I want, whereas, ironically though, you tend to progress faster when we start with what existing problems in the organization can I solve with unique skill sets. So here are 3 pointers to get your career conversations right. Build your champions or your mentors. Your career conversations happen in rooms where you're not there to represent yourself. Are you ensuring that you have mentors and sponsors who can vouch for you and talk for you and champion for you? Be curious and remove your blinders. We tend to stick with what has been asked of us. Be curious about how decisions get taken. Who are the movers? How does it impact the organization? And the third one, this is my favorite, I call it the Scott Adams model to building pivotal skills. So the Dilbert creator, if you have read the strip Dilbert, he's one of the top rated comics in the world, right? So he says that while he's not the most skilled artist, he still is one of the most top rated comics in the world. He attributes this to a unique combination of his skills. He says he spent years in the corporate job. He has an MBA. He's an artist and he's an engineer. No one else in the world has that unique combination of skill sets that make him unique and allow him to do what he does best. What is your unique combination of skills? Identify your pivotal skills. So remember this, right? I love this book. It says the job is what you do when you're told what to do it. Your art is what you do when no one can tell you exactly how to do it. Be an artist. My fourth story is, okay, we set all of these goals. How do you even achieve them? Again, the man behind the Dilbert series, Scott Adams, he puts a success down to an alternate method of goal setting. He says, set systems and not goals, right? The problem with goals, he says, is that while they give you something to work towards, accomplishments can be fleeting. So a few years ago, I decided I want to build myself a website, right? I'll get myself a website. I loved writing and I thought it was a good, worthwhile exercise to document all my learnings online. So I spoke to a bunch of mentors, freelancers, and checked out a bunch of options. Finally, one fine day, I decided that maybe I want to build this myself. I want to try this out myself. So I set a process. I blocked out 30 minutes on my calendar every weekday for the next 30 days. I had set myself a forcing function by which I had the notifications off, and I was seated at my desk trying to figure out how to get this done. Consistently, day after day. Now, I wouldn't call mine as the most professional looking website in the world, but it is still mine, right? Set systems, results will follow. Now, a goal may look like I want to lose weight. A system means you run for 30 minutes each day at 7 a.m. and buy smaller plates. A goal looks like I want to read, say, 52 books per year. A system looks like read for 1 hour each night before you go to bed. Set systems. Results will follow. My last slide and my last story is one of my favorites again. It's about gratitude and reflection. People who win the coveted lottery prize, right? They experience this high levels of happiness. Now, this happiness lasts for about a year and it recedes gradually to a normal sense of happiness and well-being. This is called hedonic adaptation. After you have your basic needs met, for humans, they tend to return to their baseline levels of happiness post this initial spike of positivity or negativity. So, how do you increase your baseline levels of happiness? And that is where gratitude helps, right? And while you're out there cultivating gratitude, another skill to cultivate is self-awareness. Self-awareness through reflection. So I remember mentoring this person, maybe he had around 18 to 20 years of experience. He had started off as a software engineer, moved into testing, then into project management, and now he was looking at moving into analytics leadership. I just can't seem to crack the analytics leadership interviews. He said to me, "What do you even do? Can I cook up something to crack these interviews?" he asked. One thing which struck me singularly across that conversation was the lack of introspection and reflection. Saying this is what I want is good, but taking a step back to ask why is it that I seek this and what's holding me from getting there is better. Questioning your decisions and actions to create self-awareness helps you identify where you stand, how the world perceives you, and helps you course correct. And over time, self-awareness and reflection can be a superpower. As Randy Commissar, who's a VC entrepreneur, and he's one of the coaches for Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, says, life is brief. You don't want to be wasting your passions and gifts trying to do something which you are not good at or won't want to do, right? So that's my 5. There are no tricks, no miracles, but it's a sure shot way of getting to what you want to do, right? So as I talk to you folks today who look at this world of opportunities, you're probably going to step out into this world of opportunities. I want to leave you with this book from Obama and this quote, which is one of my favorites as well. Enthusiasm makes up for a host of deficiencies. Live long and prosper. Good luck, folks.